Hey, Black Belt Reads. It's almost Christmas time. So, I like to do these videos, books you should read during certain times of the year. So, I've got 10 books for Christmas time. Pretty much every one of these books will have a Christmas scene or take place during Christmas or something that just stood out to me. So, starting off, Moby Dick. I'm sure a lot of you probably have not read Moby Dick and wonder why it's on the list. Famously, the ship departs on Christmas Day. So I always think about that. The book begins with that very, very famous, beautiful quote, "Call me Ishmael," but he says, "When I feel a November drizzle in my soul," or something like that. So I always think of that time of year, November, December, and then the ship actually departs on Christmas Day, which is, within the first two or three chapters. Um, yeah, one of the best books ever. Really, very challenging read. Um, doesn't seem like a huge book, but it'll take you a long time to get through it. But really worth it. Well worth the read if you want a challenge. Number two, John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany. I love John Irving. I've read several of his books. Very cozy. Always just feel wrapped up in his novels. Kind of a coming of age. Owen Meany's a very strange, very small child. He has a very distinct voice. Whenever you read this book, his dialogue is all capitalized. He has it's described as a very nasally, high pitched falsetto voice that disturbs people, I think. This book, it's on my Christmas list because it has a scene very famously where Owen Meany really dominates the Christmas play. He is he plays the part of baby Jesus at one point. He plays the part of the ghost of future yet to come. Was it the ghost of days yet to come? But he does it in a very Owen Meany fashion. He steals the show. He freaks people out. Children leave crying, and he doesn't even have any dialogue. It's very funny. This book's funny, very sweet. A little gross at times because it's about teenage boys, right? But if you want just a very cozy Christmas read, not like Moby Dick, this one's very easy to read, then I highly recommend A Prayer for Owen Meany. All right, number three, taking a huge left turn here. American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. You may be wondering why. Why would you put this on the list? I think this is a Christmas book. It takes place during Christmas time. There's very famously the Christmas party. I really love this book. I've loved it since I was a kid. It's very disturbing. So if you're not into that kind of thing, totally get it. It is just such a dark journey through the psychopath's mind, and I love it. It's so quotable. Of course, there's a lot of scenes in here where he's just, critiquing what someone's wearing or talking about his favorite albums, which can be a little, right? But just read it, you'll get through it. You can kind of skim those parts a little bit. But whenever he's being crazy or talking about himself, there is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, and he talks about his depersonalization and all that stuff is phenomenal. That is some absolutely mind-boggling stuff. I love this book. I've probably read it three times. Anyway, it definitely takes place during Christmas, so if you want something really dark, this is a perfect Christmas read. Number four, Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This also famously takes place on Christmas Eve. I believe it's been a long time since I've read this. I believe the story starts with a group of people and they start to tell this story on Christmas Eve at like a Christmas party. So I always think about that. I always think of this as a winter book, as a Christmas book. Again, kind of like Moby Dick, this is a very challenging read. it's different. So Moby Dick is challenging because it's got some big ideas. It's got a lot of allegory. It's got a lot of whale entomology and things that are can be challenging. This is difficult because it's just written in that Henry James has a very strange way of writing. It didn't really click with me. I really want to revisit it. I enjoyed it, but it was just so tough because he talks in this way like the man went in his own way to a place far beyond. It's like every sentence is multiple sentences in a sentence, and it's just written in this very old-fashioned kind of way. But it's very short. You can read this in just a couple of days, really. So, Turn of the Screw, the second, I would say, horror book on the list. But we will pause with the novels and do something a little different. So, for number 5, I'm going to put up The Deviant by James Tynion, or as people call him, Tiny Onion. This is basically a serial killer that dresses up like Santa Claus. It's a very short graphic novel that you can read in just one or two sittings. It's really dark. It's got some really great themes. You can read it for free online, I'm sure, or you can pick up a trade. I don't actually have a copy because I read it online, but it's perfect for this time of year. It just came out, I think, last year, so it's maybe the newest thing on this list. Next one is also a graphic novel. It is Batman by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Why is Batman on the list? You don't really think of Christmas, do you, when you think of Batman? Well, I do, because the most famous, the most popular, arguably the best Batman story of all time is The Long Halloween. Like, dude, this is a Christmas video, not Halloween. But there is such an iconic scene in here. I'm going to take the dust jacket off. You don't have to be a black belt to hold this thing, but you do have to work out because this is probably like a 10-pound book. It's huge. Definitely the biggest book on the list. You don't have to read the whole thing. You can just get a trade of The Long Halloween. But I bookmarked right here, very famously, the Christmas issue with the Joker. This is a very iconic part of the book with the Joker basically just terrorizing Gotham on Christmas Day. I could probably do this a little better. Maybe I should have just put the book down and switched the camera view, but yeah. Some people are not huge on Tim Sale's artwork. I love it. I think it really, really fits the book. So you can see the Joker terrorizing people on Christmas Day. There's a very, very famous scene where he's in a airplane. See if I can find it. Yeah, right here. So I just always think of this. When I think of The Long Halloween, this is one of the issues I think of. The Joker on Christmas Day just terrorizing Gotham in that airplane. One more frame here because I love it. Right here. I love this full page spread of Batman. Just saying, you're done. Just a couple of graphic novels for my comic fans out there. I'm going to put a few of the more obvious ones up right here. So, Harry Potter. Something much more lighthearted than I usually put on the channel. But I love Harry Potter. You can tell how beat up this book is. I've had this book since I was a kid, and then my kids have read it. I think the dog got a hold of it at one point. I don't know what happened here. But I read this book probably like 6 times. My son, I think he's read it at least a couple times. And I plan on also my children that are younger, as they get old enough to read this type of thing, to either read it to them or encourage them to read it. But I always think of the times when Christmas is coming to Hogwarts and all the children go to their families, but Harry doesn't have a family. So he gets stuck at Hogwarts during Christmas, but something crazy always happens, and those parts are just so memorable to me. So pretty much every book has a Christmas scene in it. And I would say the Harry Potter movies are definitely Christmas movies. Let me know if you agree with that. Number 8, Ghost Story. Yes, I finally finished Ghost Story. And I realized as I was reading this is a Christmas book. This is not a Halloween read. This is a Christmas read. It is largely in the cold. There are so many descriptions of the cold, and a chunk of the book takes place on Christmas. Uh, Absolutely beautifully written. Straub has such a unique style of writing. It did take me a while to get through. It's a very slow burn, but worth it. I'm glad I read it. It has some really horrific scenes in here, and the villain is an all-time great to me. I loved the villain. Uh, I don't want to spoil anything. The villain is very, very intriguing to me. So loved it. Loved the old guys. The mystery. You're reading the book and you're just wondering what is going on. It's perfect for Christmas time. This will be the last horror book, number 9. NOS 4A2, Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This is way deep on the list because it's the most obvious. It's about a creepy killer that steals children, some type of vampire man. It's a little ambiguous, but he takes people to an imaginary place that only he can get to in his car with this license plate. Anyway, the place is called Christmas Land. And yes, he takes kids to this place called Christmas Land. It's very creepy. Uh, I love Joe Hill. I've read most of his books, and he's really never let me down. I've pretty much loved everything I've ever read by Joe Hill, and this is one of his best, one of his biggest too. But this is no Moby Dick. This is something you can read very easily in just a few days. What is 600 pages? Yeah, 680, almost 700 pages. Doesn't feel like it. You can blow through it. It's so good. Perfect for Christmas time. There's really no other time of the year you could ever read this book. You have to read it during Christmas time. With all that said, number 10, of course, I mean, I have to put it on the list. Maybe I'll do this video again next year with 10 different books. So I thought, just throw it on there. You got to put it on there. Number 10, A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. One of the most famous classic novels of all time. Probably what everyone thought when they saw Christmas books. When you think of a Christmas book, you probably think of either the Bible, like the birth of Jesus, or Christmas Carol. So that's it. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll post another video before Christmas, but I just wanted to get this out here early so maybe you could pick something on this list and still be able to read it during Christmas. So for me, it's A Prayer for Owen Meany. I'm rereading A Prayer for Owen Meany. I'm about halfway through and loving it. Loving it. Neglecting my chores because I just want to read the book. That's how good it is. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.